what we're going to be talking about. So healthcare, program management, hospitals in the Southeast.
On the Lean Construction Institute Virtual Summit, a professional from the Southeast, and they said they were surprised at how Lean is not more pervasive in the Southeast. Does that surprise you that somebody from the Southeast would say that?
No, I mean, just a little bit of history. I got introduced heavily into Lean in Akron, Ohio, and I thought that was an interesting place to get my immersion into Lean with Akron Children's. But to their credit, you don't have as many people that feel comfortable with the Lean tools or the Lean processes beyond maybe some of the construction teams. And so you don't have as many owners specifically maybe looking at that as a course of entry into decision-making and projects. And so, you just don't have as much of an educational function maybe that's immersive as you get into places like California or just into maybe bigger markets, have other offices that are able to play off of things that they're learning holistically from company culture, and then get clients to start to get more comfortable with taking some of that Lean world into their operations too. So, that's the other thing I think that's probably true, depending on who the professional was. There's Lean operations that have been playing out inside of hospital facilities, and certain clients like Akron Children said, hey, let's take it all the way to the construction project. But, there's a small gap between the clinical Lean operations and then what, your teams are doing out in the field now, working through like Lean processes in construction, and just trying to gap it towards the program management group, gap it towards the leadership of a hospital, and kind of get everybody on board. It seems to be maybe harder to swing and hit on that consistently in the Southeast.
Welcome to the EBFC Show, the easier, better for construction podcast. I'm your host, Felipe, Engineer Manriquez. This show is all about the business of construction.
Today's episode is sponsored by
Bosch Refine My Site is a cloud-based construction collaboration platform that applies Lean principles to enable your entire team to plan, communicate, and execute in real time. It's the digital tool that works in tandem with your last planner system process and puts it all together in one simple, collaborative ecosystem. This easy-to-use platform is available in English, German, Spanish, Portuguese, and French, and can be used on desktops, tablets, and mobile devices. According to Spencer Easton, scheduling manager at Oakland Construction,
Refine My Site, in my opinion, is the best, leanest tool on the market for last planner system.
Here's what our users have to say. We've looked at 3 other digital scheduling platforms, and none compare to the straightforward approach Refine My Site takes. From milestone planning all the way down to daily tasks, this program gives every general contractor and their trade partners meaningful collaboration, accountability, and KPIs. Register today to try Refine My Site for free for 60 days.
Today's episode is sponsored by Construction Accelerator.
The design and construction industries come up with and build great things, but we also build and waste in how we do those things, in our interactions, in our contracts, in our logistics. So what does this do for our bottom line or our next project? The best firms maximize their value by removing that waste and only doing what's essential to the work, what makes them money. Construction Accelerator will train you to see the waste and give your teams the Lean tools and experience to remove it immediately. All online. Construction Accelerator is made up of 3 to 9 minute videos that can be watched again and again in the field, at the office, and at home, all broken down by topic. Need to learn pool planning? We have videos on the process, how to set up a room, and how to kick off a team. Need to set up a target value delivery project? We discuss all the aspects of TVD, especially cost. Or maybe you just need to brush up on 5S, well, we have videos on that as well. You can download and print reference materials to use on site to immediately translate watching into doing. Subscribe today at trycanow.com. Let's build an industry, not just a project.
Today's show is also sponsored by the Lean Construction Institute. LCI is working to lead the building industry in transforming its practices and culture. Its vision is to create a healthy and thriving industry that delivers outstanding project outcomes every time for everyone. Check the show notes for more information. Now, to the show. Welcome to the show, Stephen Powell. Stephen, you and I have been on our lean journey for almost the same amount of time. It's hard to tell who got started first. I could take my roots back. We could pull out our lean wallets and see, like, who's got the edge. But I think it's pretty much safe to say it's a tie.
I think you're right.
Yeah, the one big difference is I've been on the general contractor side for the vast majority of my career, and you've been on the project manager, owner side, developer, super duper focused in healthcare your entire career. Is that right?
Well, that's true. Yeah. So that's the big difference in our lean journeys. I've done it from the owner's side and working with folks like yourself on the construction or the architecture side. But super duper healthcare program management guy.
And I think we were talking too at the beginning about, I even heard from a nurse turned architect designer. They've been on a lean journey for over a decade. And she was surprised when she got into the construction side that nobody knew any of these same things that they've been using in nursing for over 10 years. And she was shocked.
Yeah, well, the hard part is you think about certain things, the Kanban systems or just the way that, I know in the world of Scrum and Takt planning and things like that operationally they're doing a lot of the things inside the hospital. But, unless you get a contractor that's confident in it, it doesn't always come down to the fact that we start pushing it. And even from a design perspective, getting designers that are comfortable with it. And I think it's actually fair to say it's getting better everywhere. It's an educational factor. You have to have really done a project that used lean tools and you validated that they were valuable to an outcome. And there's more people, I was 10 years younger when I did Akron. And so I got to see something happen and saw it work well and saw the value of it, that I now carried that mentality 10 years into my career. And there's more people along the way in those 10 years that have gotten similar experiences. And we did a pull plan in Pensacola this past week. And afterwards, I was talking to a couple of guys like, how did you schedule before this? Like, how do you not take into consideration when the hospital needs to open or when the a behavioral health facility needs to open, and really looked at it with the end in mind and really understanding key milestones and working out in the backwards behavior things that become roadblocks that you can overcome because you're starting to talk about them in a pattern of this could be something in 6 months from now that if we don't start to think about how we would have swim lane across in this, we would get to a point where me as a designer can't give you something as a contractor, and we've hit an impasse that slows up a process or a construction.
That is true. And the answer for that is, well, we just guess. I mean, even if they don't tell you out loud, Stephen, I know the answer. The answer is we just guess. We put it in a P6 schedule, a critical path method schedule. I don't want to just call out Oracle left and right all day long. There's also Microsoft Project. And there's there's some other ones.
Smartsheet now. Yeah, we use Smartsheet for a lot of things now, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like, you can go and put your logic. Our logic can do a lot of things, but when it comes to literally having the conversation with the right people in the room and trying to figure out, the key milestones and then carrying it down into a tactical plan, you can't do that as easily without sometimes the sticky notes. You can use definitely the virtual sides, but it's pretty crazy how much more efficient it does get if you are able to get the right people in the room and really put it up on a board and grease it out.
It is amazing. How this happens in different areas and where we get our entries in. And you had a shocking entry in, and I had a very weird entry into lean. I think it just goes to show that there's no right way to get in. Just get in, people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I laugh because when we were talking, Akron, Ohio was not the place that I thought my lean journey would begin. But lo and behold, you have a hospital and a owner that believes the operations from inside their hospital need to go out into the construction world. And they look to an owner's rep to say, we want you to help implement that. So getting a chance to live in the great state of Ohio, great state, and work with some great teams there. I got immersed in a lean IPD project, and since then have been kind of hooked on this is the way we should look to do business whenever we can.
This is the way. I got to get that in. I was on a show the other day, and my guest was challenging me to say that this is Scrum, over and over again. So I don't want to do that in 2 shows, but I will Mandalorian quote out all day long. Please tell us your background into how did you get so hooked into healthcare construction, if you could start there. Or you could start with after you were born. It's up to you.
Oh, after I was, yeah. Well, no, it's an interesting world. I grew up in Alabama, went to Auburn, War Eagle, beat the Aggies this weekend.
There you go.
When I went to college, I thought I wanted to be in healthcare, so maybe more on the world of a pharmacist or in the medical world. And about 2 years in, I decided that I thought that I probably did not want to do that. Organic chemistry kind of weeded me out.
Oh, so you didn't like? Was it just memorizing all the molecules or making models?
Yeah, it was getting into the world of if this is the entry level drug, this is not the drugs I'm going to take. But I luckily was given a little bit of a nudge and a wink to say, if you really want to get into the world of healthcare, and I did have a brother who had been sick as a child, so there was a little bit of a world of wanting to give back in that healthcare community in some way. So that's what had driven me a little bit more into the medical side. But I had an opportunity to go do construction management and was kind of said, hey, there's a lot of hospitals getting built, and there's a lot of opportunity in the world to work for general contractors or owners reps that would be building hospitals. And if that's a passion of yours, seek them out. There's a lot of great firms that do hospital construction. And so when I did my thesis, I did it on a hospital. Thought I was going to go into the world of construction and working on hospitals. And funny story is I graduated from college in 2008 in the little bit of a Great Recession of its own, and had two opportunities to work for general contractors, a couple projects, but specifically I also got an opportunity to work for an owner's rep out of school. So I didn't actually go into the construction industry from a contractor's perspective out of college, even though I had the degree. I ended up taking the role with the owner's rep in Alabama, and ended up working with both of the general contractors that I also was looking to work with. So I was gonna work on at that point one of the largest hospital projects being built in the state of Alabama. So I was going to figure out a way into it. And I determined that my wife is a physical therapist and graduated in Birmingham, getting a hospital project in Birmingham and being able to marry her and stay there and not have to travel in the first part of my married and career was a huge perk. And so that project was, we'll call it IPD light is not the right term to use all the time, but there was some scenarios in it around shared saving collaboration that were good. We did not really get into the world of pool planning or last planner or a lot of the realm of what I learned after that project that seems to have kind of taken my mind by storm after that. So I lived in Birmingham, worked on Children's Hospital, and a little bit into that time, we had an opportunity to win a job in Akron, Ohio. And so I had the opportunity when the project was finished to move and relocate to Akron, Ohio, work on a project called Akron Children's with some great firms. And I'll never forget when I was starting to learn about the project and target value design, we had a gap to target.
Nice.
And I was like, wait, I'm gonna move to a new state out of my comfortable home for a project that still had some ways to go from target value design and getting to the actual target. And I'll never forget the person that was the senior leader there. And this is, maybe it's just willing and trustful, but he said, you got a good team and they're working together and this process works. Just trust the process. As a younger program manager, I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to you and I'm going to trust but verify the process. And so I got a chance to move to Akron and got to work with some really good folks from Akron Children's, from the design community and from the construction community, and really got immersed in big room culture, the collaboration techniques of A3 thinking, of choosing by advantages, of project leadership structure and governance that does drive decision making, that really just made it very easy in the world of an owner's rep to say, we know when risks are happening, we have ways to mitigate them, and in a lot of ways we're all creating a culture of continuous improvement and change that schedule could be improved if we all work together. Cost can be improved if we all work together, and scope can be maximized if we all work together. And so, that project, in my belief and from talking to other folks, it did all those things and it did it well. And there was always ups and downs in any project, but you look back on something that's going on 10 years, and I still have good friends in the professional community from that. And there's still a lot of things that I know they're using that they play off from learning from that. I use play off from learning from that. And we're all in a situation where it was a good immersion into lean project management and IPD culture. And so since then, I've kind of went more on my lean journey with the idea of helping clients, if they couldn't take on IPD structure, where do we go about influence as much as we can from the lean IPD, or in your world, Scrum world.
That's right.
Things that make this all better for everyone. And so did a little bit of coaching in Oregon before I moved to Dallas, and then I had the opportunity to move to Dallas and work with another children's hospital. So I have my first part of my career was very children's pediatric centric, and it was awesome. And I'm not going to ever say that it wasn't. Like, pediatric facility in hospital construction is a jewel. But I showed up a little bit too late for this, but it was definitely the way they selected the team on the project in Texas when I first moved here was pretty awesome, to go and do basically a Lego building construction where they created an ownership structure in the room for the interview, and you had a budget. Here you had a material list. You had to make decisions. There was design changes. There was everything about like the mock-up of this is why we're going to pick you is how do you interact and how do you the human side of project management. So when I heard all that, I was like, well, I'll work on that project. That would be awesome. And we were able to do a lot of things set up from a governance perspective, pool planning, and in a lot of ways target value design and the best we could without certain incentive structures. And it was just funny because I learned there, I was like, creating some of the continuous improvement culture and looking at different ways to do things in a better way, lean ways, efficient ways. That was my first entry level into Scrum.
Nice.
So they had a Scrum board, and it caught me because I was like, oh, why don't we do this all the time? Like, why as owners reps do we not simplify our world and go, what all do we have to do this week, guys? Yeah. Okay, who's going to do it? All right, you take it, you go do it, and when you're done, put it over here. Let's all let's organize our week. And so I was like, this is the way you and so it is tricky because there's a point in time where as an owner's rep you may not be having the same level widget structure because you're not building something, but there's still a point in time where each week has the key things that need to get accomplished, and each week you have the ability to level load how things get accomplished if you're organized around it. So I've done a long way around, but I've spent the last 6 or 7 years in Texas working with healthcare clients in Dallas and along the lower coast. Had some challenges, different places, trying to figure out how to overcome situations in management. And in the last couple weeks, have taken on a role as a VP of Program Management for Meadows and Ole, working on large healthcare projects in the Southeast, spending a lot of my time kind of helping ramp up some of those projects currently, and we'll be looking to really, it's been interesting having this podcast, is really be able to, in a smaller company, work to say, what's the best process? What's the best practices? What do we want to do, and how does Meadows and Ole's program management solutions really look like in 2022, in 5 years, and how do we become, the best program management company that we can become? And so things like Scrum and being on projects where you get to work with other general contractors and architects that understand we all need to do things better, and we need to be looking at ways to do things through the lean lens. You just keep balancing it and balancing it. So it's a great world that we're starting to, I think, see, not just in California. It's not always going to be as easy to find the client in Birmingham, Alabama, or in LaGrange, Georgia, that really, can buy into, what they want to press on that, like Akron Children's did. But it's definitely something that's pretty exciting when you do start to say, okay, if you like me and I like you, can I tell you about Lean? Can I tell you about the world that's out there and how we can construct things better, easier, better for construction?
Yes. Yes, Stephen. Okay, first I gotta just pause you right there because I'm about to explode. So all the people listening to the show so far, if you're watching this on YouTube, you would see that I've been elevating in my chair. The more Stephen talked, the less I was connected to the earth. I just started floating up. There's so many cool things that you said just in your intro and how you got started. And I definitely want to come back and unpack some of those. But like bonus to you, Stephen, for blending in the show name, Easier, Better for Construction. I mean, that's just exciting right there. You did it so perfectly. And I think, also in the early part, this is what a testament to you wanted to give back. And right from day one, because of experiences with your brother, you had a chance to really have an impact for so many children in hospitals. And I've had the chance to work in hospital construction as well. That's actually most of my career has been hospital construction, and then other types of construction later. But it is, I mean, there is like nothing like it to be part of something that's going to impact the health of people, and especially the youngest and most vulnerable of our population, which are children. So amazing. And my goodness, you are spoiled. You got to actually stay in Birmingham after you got married.
It was one where you're like, oh man, this is the way to do it. Way to do it.
Yeah. And then now you travel, like, I think when I met you this summer, you traveled, we were like comparing frequent flyer, situations. And I think we're both at the point where if we want to go have dinner in a city in the United States, we've got the points to make it happen and have
Well, the crazy part, I think, Felipe, we did definitely talk about the show when I was on a layover in Dallas. I live in Dallas, but I met you for dinner on a layover in and out of Dallas. And it wasn't over a day. It was about 5 hours. So yeah. it was a good dinner, but it's just, yeah, I do travel a lot more since the Birmingham days. So she's a saint. That's why I wanted to marry her. She's a saint. So.
Perfect. Shout out to Mrs. Powell, who is a saint.
For sure.
Yeah, she deserves credit. I know my wife absolutely takes care of me and allows me to do all the cool stuff that I do with amazing support. We can never say enough for what it's worth. It's priceless to have that type of support in your family. And, I want to come back to target value design. And I like for those that don't know the difference, because people just shout out TVD. We'll say a lot of acronyms, but we'll try to unpack those. The difference between design and delivery is that delivery includes my favorite part, construction. But it's one of the smallest parts, as we know. Like,
no.
What kind of runway, like on that job you mentioned, job of the size where there's a Lego competition just to vet the team out. How long was that job in planning, business validation before shovel hit the ground?
It's pretty interesting. I think that from an owner's side, we typically are having 6 to almost a year and just trying to capitalize understanding of what the project's going to be. That project, and I think, Akron was the same way. There's the what you think you want, and then there's the let's get the right team to go get exactly what we want. I think that has kind of been the nice part of a few projects that have the delivery mindset that you're going to bring on the contractor early, and you're going to go about trying to validate, programmatically you have a good idea of what you want, and you have an idea of what you want to spend, and you probably have an idea of how long you want it to take. But we can want all those things, but you can't Amazon everything and make that work. You have to get you have to pick the right team, and you have to be able to then go validate it. But it is interesting. I guess the terminology that a mentor had told me before, a lot of what we want to do when we get the chance is go slow to go fast. So really validate, confirm the scope is right, confirm the team is right, confirm along that pattern how design should flow to get the right information first, and not have a lot of open-ended discussion later on that creates changes in design. And when you can do that in a delivery model that has target value around what the component should look like, it can work well together, because you're not getting to something that is designed and you don't have the ability to influence that design along the way. It's definitely been more challenging in the last 18 months with just what the supply chain and escalation of construction products and services have been. But beyond that, there's a lot more things that are controllable in that pattern of target value, design, and delivery, which is it's another one of those where if you have every chance possible to do it that way, we want to try to do it that way, knowing that the outcomes are proven to be much more desirable.
That's right. Like you said before, the owners have the opportunity to maximize their value with actual less dollar spend. Now, the effort, I would argue that the effort to do TVD is the same, except you spend the effort in different places. There's more effort up front, and then you just have a smooth transition through design, smoother construction with less issues, less firefighting, and a super smooth, people take occupancy and start utilizing the building. And healthcare construction, start treating patients. But I think what I wanted to touch back on is, some of the owners that use these types of process, the serial healthcare builders, and most hospitals are serial builders, building every year, either tenant improvement space, upgrading surgery suites, or in the case when COVID happened, having to use more ICU space to isolate patients. The time up front is years. So, I was thinking of a job that's 3 stories tall. It's a medical surgery space with some patient rooms, and the runway before a general contractor would get hired or have a chance was 5 years. There's 5 years of planning.
Hey, real quick.
Construction is one of the only industries that's become less productive over the past 6 decades. 60% of construction job cost is labor. 80% of construction projects are over budget. 60% aren't on time. Struxy replaces paper timesheets and manual data entry with easy-to-use software. How much are inefficient job sites costing you? One of our customers estimates they'll save millions per year with Struxy. Read the case study at our website, struxy.com. That's STRUXI.com. Software for hard work. You can also visit us at World of Concrete in Las Vegas come January.
Because of financing and just approvals, and then programming with an architect, and then later possibly changing architects, and then doing schematic design, and then engaging documents that you can put out on the street and then get competitive bids. It's like 5 to 6 years before 2 years of construction.
Right.
So
yes, no offense to the services of master planning, but there's money that's paid a lot in hospital design towards things that could be. And yeah, you're right. It's like, we're going to build a tower here in the next 5 to 10 years. And as it gets closer, someone else will probably master plan that once more. And then you may hire an architect who will then do another master planning effort. And then you start the process of, this is real. So yeah, it's definitely an opportunity to be able to address that along the way. But the good part is with that time, and you start to kind of explore what opportunities are for contractual models, what opportunities are for management, then you're able to, I think, more efficiently set up how you want to govern the project, run the project when it comes time to select the team.
And I want also, for people that don't know, if you've never had the chance to be part of a target value design or delivery, like Stephen has perfectly described it. I mean, you should be thinking, like, right now, like, why are we not doing this thing? Here's the one crazy thing that he kind of just jumped over when he went up to Akron. And that's that the client is going to come tell you and say, like, even though we all know I've got this much money, let's say I'm at this level of cash for this job, we're going to pretend like I don't have this much, and we're going to lower that, and we're going to target some percentage less, which just magically is always like 20% less, because it creates a good challenge condition.
Yeah.
Right? It's 20% less typically.
20%. It's always, hey, it's like you give it to me, let's go for 20% less. And hey, if you get to 18, we still try for 20, and that was the good benchmark.
We still won. And so, but what people don't realize, that it's by design. There's been a lot of research done as to why you want to set that target below the allowable cost that the client is willing to pay for. It creates innovation. It creates this necessity. It makes a natural gap where people are like, man, we thought it was this much and we were ready for this, and now we have to figure out how to do it with less. You have to innovate in order to close that gap and still provide that same functionality. So that's why it's done like that on purpose. It's more challenging up front, but what ends up happening is that you end up getting, hopefully, you have some shared savings. So if you do come down, everybody wins because we spent less money and we still deliver the same function or even better function. Right, Stephen? Right.
And the magic sauce, I think, in some of that is there's ways to do it inside the 20%. There's times you can put it beyond into the target cost, right? So that shared savings mechanism. I think the other thing that is key is you also try to make sure that profits are managed to where that innovation isn't a detriment to your fee structure. So like, it's pretty nice to be able to set this up, understand what everyone's going to make pretty on par to start, what the incentives will be, and then everybody just go and try to deliver the best, most efficient and cost efficient in certain ways project for an owner, without the worry that if I drive 20% out of this project, I'm not going to make the same amount of money that I take home. And your upside is dramatically increased by the process that sets up.
And everybody who's listening that's not had this experience, because it's the vast majority, Stephen, as we know, don't have this opportunity. They've just been in traditional. Traditional is predominant. Last numbers I checked with my buddy who's done $2 billion of IPD work, integrated project delivery, he estimates that it's still less than 5% of all construction in the United States. And so that means that, 9 out of 10 jobs is going to be traditional, or more than 9 out of 10 is going to be a traditional delivery. So people don't even know. But the people that do have these experiences, like Stephen, you take it forward with you. Like, you've gone, I'm sure you left Akron, you went to the very next job, and you said it. You're like, what am I going to bring with me so we can make this better? Didn't even have to look at the contract, right? Right.
And the fun part is anytime you got a chance to position the contract and set things up. I worked on a project recently in Omaha, Nebraska, the Children's Hospital in Omaha. It was a true IPD project, and it's just getting back into those situations and understanding how efficient that is when you work on more projects that aren't. So as a regional person, I don't always get the chance to work on every project that is, but I loved going to Omaha, Nebraska, just seeing a team work in a collaborative space and use a lot of the same tools that we did in Akron, and have a contract that sets up to allow them to always be looking for the better solution and not really worrying about certain things that you do in a more traditional setting, because you had things set up from the contractual onset and the team behavior.
I love that. And just to bring an analogy to it. So I want everyone to imagine the most beautiful apple pie that you love. We're approaching Thanksgiving, Stephen. Let's imagine either a pecan pie or a pumpkin pie, your choice. So you've got that pecan, that you can see what I'm leaning towards, pecan. I spent a lot of summers in Texas, so pecans were plentiful. They were plentiful there. But so imagine this pie. And so everyone thinks that in order to do this project, we're only going to have a sliver or a slice of that pie for profitability. When you go into target value design and delivery, you actually increase the pie. The pie is bigger than you can even imagine. You're going to think you know what it is. And as people work together collaboratively, you start looking out for each other. You end up walking away with margins that are sometimes 2 and 5 times greater than traditional design, bid, build work, or even design build work. So people,
Right.
you're going to make more money. You're going to have way more fun doing it. You're probably going to do Scrum because this is the way. It's going to be awesome.
The funny thing you say, like, so if you have all the opportunity there is a key performance indicator or a success metric structure that goes along with it. But because of that, you need to look at tools like Scrum. You have to find things to say, if I need to be measured and I need to create a key performance outcome, you have to look for tools that will help you prove that out or manage to that indicator, because the indicator is what will drive the bigger pie. And so, if it has to do with quality and it has to do with coordination, things like that, like there's a lot of things like Scrum or pool planning that helps you manage certain areas of that delivery to where your key performance indicator, where you're at all the time, because you have a process in place that helps you check to say we're on track.
Right. Super reliable process. So I think that's really critical. And I want to go back to that job where you said you come back to Texas and you're getting involved, immersed in the project, and you notice that they're doing Scrum. You're getting exposed to Scrum the first time. Who brought Scrum to that project team?
Well, it was interesting. I don't know if it was you, or if it was if it was just I got one of the books from I think it was Matt Burnett was one of the senior project managers, and either he gave me the book or I got the book, and I started kind of looking at it. And around the same time, I'll say this is my Felipe introduction and plug. LCI out in Anaheim was one of the many times that you have talked about Scrum, but I was in the audience, packed house,
standing room only,
standing room only,
Before COVID, we could actually stand shoulder to shoulder,
and was kind of immersed in the fact, like, okay, and I think I met some of the LCI community practice leaders in Dallas around that same part of the conference. But it was just interesting because it came from the construction side, and it was something that they were doing for their office staff. It was a small office staff for the project up in Plano, and we happened to office with them, so I could just be kind of a fly on the wall in what was happening. It was a team of two for me and the Shruti, who was the PM that I worked with, so we couldn't do Scrum as well as I wanted to at that point. But as I started down a path of looking at, when I can sit in a team and I'm managing with a team, and this has actually been the hardest part as an owner's rep, is that I'm immersed in the idea, let's do anything that helps us, continuous improvement. If there's a way that we can do something better, let's try to do it. But if you try to do something and it doesn't work for you, or you're not committed to it, then I'm not going to drive you to it, because I'm not in it the same way you are. And so that's been the interesting part about Scrum for me as I get into larger teams, is I can start to introduce the concept. I don't know if you did this by design, but we were using Trello boards, with Teams and Planner. There's other ways to do similar Scrum boards, and it's easy to do virtually. So, I'm in the swing of perfect world, and it's not a Microsoft plug, so if you need to cancel it, it's but Teams, other places where you can have a hub of information that you land on, whether it be an owner's rep team, whether it be a project team, having the ability to use something like a Microsoft Planner or a Trello or something in there and create the Scrum board virtually. It's been pretty cool to watch in the world of COVID, because you can really manage your daily work plans and you can manage your weekly work plans in that virtual environment on a platform like Teams, that I hope that we keep in every way possible, parts of that going forward, where people are really looking to say, this is our own little colo spot virtually where information will reside and live, and you have tools that make it pretty easy to implement Scrum procedure on your project, if you just kind can set that up with anybody on the team that's willing to maintain and keep it constant. And you have to, I mean, that's the thing I think is true about all the tools, but specifically Scrum or pull planning, is you have to be committed, you have to stay strong in it, and you have to hold each other accountable in the fact that it's good for you. It's the way that we can do things and have more predictable outcomes and really validate that we're on task.
Amazing that that happened, and happily will just say thank you to, if it was me, you're welcome. If it was somebody else, hey, you're welcome. Definitely, we had a great time in Anaheim. I'm always amazed at how many people that I meet like today that their first time meeting me was that room in Anaheim. I'm starting to wonder, like, what kind of magical room was that? Like, how?
Well, Disneyland was really close, so it was just, the magic was around us.
Yeah, exactly. We had Post-it notes flying off the stage. It was incredible. But for those listening, like these tools that Steven's mentioning, Trello, since its inception, that team has used Scrum to develop that product and that solution. And even the parent company that recently acquired them a few years ago, Atlassian, also uses Scrum in their solution. And Microsoft, a lot of people don't know this, Stephen, but Microsoft has been using Scrum for almost 2 decades now. And so not always since day one, and not every single team they have, but in significant numbers. I've got some friends that work over there. And so I'm always happy to hear that it's spreading. And it's spreading because it solves a problem. Because projects are freaking complex. And like you said, with 2 people, it's not as cool. When you get to 3 or more, it becomes magical. There's a big difference between a 2-person team and a 4-person team. And then you go up to like a 10-person team, you need to start splitting teams up into smaller sub-teams. And then we're talking about Scrum and Scrum. But that's a whole nother episode outside of what we're going to talk about. But we could definitely go there. I think that in order for that collaboration to happen where people can hold each other accountable, like you said, one of the values that I think about in Scrum for that is courage, because you have to do something different. Like when I brought that to LCI in that way, it was not like everyone that I knew at the time was like making my phone ring off the hook to get this stuff. They were like, what is that software stuff? That's what people mostly think. Like, it's just software. I was even talking to somebody in Brazil, and they were saying, like, we're trying to show people that it works in engineering too. And thank you for all the stuff you say about it, because it helps people to see that it actually does. Yeah, it actually does work. And surprise, it wasn't started in software. It got started in hardware and manufacturing, and then it went into finance, and then software, and then information technology. Those industries have really picked it up in a big way, but we're seeing it now in retail. We're seeing it in product design. It's getting even bigger in automobile manufacturing. I've got friends at Toyota and BMW that have confirmed, and I've seen Scrum boards to prove it, Stephen, with my own eyes. I've touched Scrum boards at BMW, and I've seen and heard things from Toyota, because both of those organizations are very smart about not letting pictures come out about what they're doing.
Yeah, the Toyota way is Scrum now, right?
That's right. Yeah, Jeffrey Liker's new version, 2nd edition. Yeah. He talks about some different features where, in my mind, it's all Scrum.
Yeah, it's all Scrum.
I'm gonna have to talk to Jeff about that.
Well, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, you're the Scrum czar within construction. You are now the guy. But no, you're right. I mean, it's just crazy how far it expands from a process and a mechanism that can work well across all those different platforms. Like it is pretty impressive.
There's another big technology company, I can't say their name, but they have a construction group, and they build billions of dollars of facilities across the world. And their construction group is now connected to me, and we're looking at how can we bring Scrum into their construction. And so it's growing because it always solves a need, a problem. Yeah. And Jeff always says, when I say Jeff, talk about Mr. Jeff Sutherland, my mentor, my hero, who I can't do enough for. Jeff, thank you so much again. Every chance I get to thank Jeff, he knows I appreciate him. Shameless plug, Stephen. Jeff even wrote the foreword to my book, as you know.
Boom.
There's
the book. There's the book. Congrats on the book.
Yeah, thank you, man. It was. It's not. it's not like a light little read too. It's got some weight to it. And there's some stories in here to bring it forward so that people can see themselves no matter where they were. Oh, this is like my story. I can see an entry point in. It doesn't have to start like in grade school. It doesn't matter, what side of the supply chain you're on. I've had even tradespeople come through and pick up Scrum, offsite fabrication facilities, architects in spades. So many architects have really flocked to it. It's just so like it just hand in glove with what they do and how they iterate on things. So no, just thank you for bringing that up. Super appreciate that. Like any chance to talk about Scrum. It's amazing.
It's like, it's your sweet spot.
It is. It is my favorite subject. I always like, I've got Jason Schroeder even saying everything is Scrum. Like there's a whole bunch of videos and I hear from people listen to his podcast because he puts a show out every day. Elevate Construction Podcast, people. It's a great show. Go check that out. And he talks about how even Takt is Scrum, which I totally agree.
I would too.
It is, awesome. But I want to go back to ask you a couple questions. From a program manager and owner's rep side, being on the owner side, you have so much influence on how projects run. And I would say even regardless of contract type, what are some of the ways that you encourage your teams to pick up some of these lean methods and values?
It's been pretty interesting having the chance to work with bigger contractors who kind of already are more built into understanding lean tools and the processes. But I think what's been the best part is, as an owner's rep, we can start to influence a little bit when we're able to talk with an owner and kind of explain to them, hey, I think you need to do target value design or target value delivery, and here's why. And if you look at what's happened in the last couple of years, if we're trying to confirm what we design you can afford, you have the influence to say, hey, I know a way of doing that a lot better than go hire the architect, have them design it, then let me send it out to 3 subs and they'll bid it. And so that has been a nice opportunity to explain and have the history on other projects where it's worked really well. I think that the other area that I hope to, this is part of why I want to be on your podcast. Yeah. I feel an urge to be as best a mentor as I can and have people look to folks like you or myself for a way to say, well, what are you seeing? What are things I could do? 5 years from now, what do I need to be proficient in? And being able to say, have you looked at Scrum? Have you looked at Last Planner? Have you thought about getting into an LCI community of practice? Have you thought about speaking at LCI? Or have you thought about just, looking at some of the things like the Ripple Intent Breakfast Club, areas where you're getting like people in a room looking at similar outcomes from, let's do construction better, let's do project management better, and you're leading them to tools that could exist to make something easier for them, right? Like a Scrum board, we talked a lot about that for a second, but it's true. Like it's a simple thing to say, if you want to do something better, try this. And the same thing when it comes to Last Planner, just invest in Post-it note, hashtag it's trending.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised what you can do with the Last Planner high level. I wouldn't say it's the true LPS, but just high level pull planning to kind of wow people and saying, let's just take this issue and work it back and try to figure out if there's a way to think through this differently and just create the conversation. And so it's, as an owner's rep, I think sometimes it's just being able to create a little bit more of that collaboration zone to say, I want to hear from you and there's no wrong answer. But we got to figure out a solution so that we can go back and all commit to a client that we can commit to a solution, commit to a decision. We're all aligned. And I think the tool and this is the lean tool that I guess I'm more near and dear to my heart, that I don't use as much as I used to, and I feel like that's what I need to continue. I'm a recovering A3-aholic, but there's a point in time where it's informing people of the tools that exist. Luckily, a lot of the firms we're bringing on board, even sometimes in the RFPs, we're saying, explain to us your lean or it really is a lot of times it's going to use the word lean, but lean principles and lean tools within your organization. And so you are on a large hospital, kind of not using that as a gauge, but you're kind of expecting most of the architects, most of the contractors to know that you want to have a collaborative, process-led design and construction project that needs to have levels of tools and information that we can all start to build off of. And it's just funny how quickly, if you set that up right and you have like the right setup from the owner's representation, you start to do, okay, we're going to do a pull plan on when design's going to be done. We're going to go and we're going to house all of our information in the same place, and we're going to transparently share that. We're going to, transparency look at the overall project budgets and try to work through solutions where there's give and take. It's just, that's the nicety of the owner's rep side that I think we can all strive to do the best we can with. And I know folks like James Peace and other, if we get everybody in the boat together and we all are trying to row it the same way, it just is a much more controllable outcome and enjoyable experience.
That is exactly why everybody needs to pick this stuff up and keep learning. Look, listen to how much fun Steven's having just describing his addiction to A3 problem solving. I mean, so everybody's just be like, oh, where do I even learn that? Where do I get started? Well, luckily for you, you're listening to this show, and we've already got some free blogs that have this information with templates to get you started. So go to the EBFCshow.com and click on blog and just search for A3, and you will find templates to get you started. So if you don't even know what we're talking about, it's all there with examples. So you could get and have as much fun as Steven's having.
Yeah, you can also be a recovering, or actually a newly A3-aholic, because it is enticing.
It is enticing. I use the A3 process to relocate and buy a house, and my A3 included a CBA, choosing by advantages. Are you shocked?
No. Well, trust me. I was just thinking as I look around my office when I talked to some of the people, they had 5S their kitchen or 5S their office. I'm like, that's the one I did not. I was an A3 guy, 5S. I'm sorry, everything is not easy. I do not make toast efficiently.
I just don't make toast. That's how I just get away from that one. I just don't make it. Yeah, we even did the in the choosing by advantages for the houses we looked at. My wife, house unseen, picked the house we live in right now. Through
the choosing by advantage, It had more advantages, and therefore, that's the one. And
it was a runaway winner. And
wow!
And she was confident enough in the decision that we could make the deal, sign on the dotted line, and then we moved in less than 35 days. Oh. Yeah, it was really fast. And it wasn't yeah, we didn't have a deadline. It was just because everything just clicked into place. I was using Scrum with the realtor, unknown to them.
Scrum Jedi'd you.
Yeah, but yeah, we had a lot of fun. Like my wife and son got to weigh in and share all their opinions and what factors and criteria were super important to them on the house, and then everything just.
Well, the funniest part of your saying that, like, you choosing by advantages is the one that you could take that, like, what should I eat tonight? What's going to give me the best advantage of satisfaction?
That's true.
But you can take it and it is a much better selection process than the traditional pros and cons.
Yeah, pros and cons is so outdated. People, we've got to stop. Every time I hear pros and cons, I think back to Jim Surr's book that brainwashed me right. It's like nails on a chalkboard. I don't correct people though, Stephen. Like if they say pros and cons, I just roll with it. And I say, you can also look at that another way. You can look at all of your alternatives and decide what is the advantage in one over the other. And they just look at me like, it sounds so logical. It is. It is. Yeah. It totally is. No, that's a lot. That's a lot. That is a lot. This is, I'm up. I'm still up. I'm going to be just floating through the world for the rest of the weekend, Stephen. You've charged me up with so much on a Scrum, your last planner, your A3 addiction, which I love. And we share in common that we don't 5S. Just below camera line, there might be a stack of books that need to get put away. That it's not, I'm a little ashamed that there's a bag right there that's in the wrong place. I'm going to have to get that. I might have even tripped over it 3 times. So it might be a sign to move that.
That's great. Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun. I've really loved having you come on the show. I'm going to have you come back on again because there's still so many more things to unpack. And I think I want to hear more about this pull plan that you did in Florida for sure. As you're spreading this across, you're like, we're going to have to say Stephen Powell, the Pied Piper of Lean for owners.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm quite the Pied Piper, but I'm trying, and I appreciate shows like this, other things that have been, or other people that have been on your show, other people's blogs. I mean, there's such a community now that we can all get into and really learn from that it's just exciting. So this is awesome. Felipe, it's been great coming on the show. It's exciting that you make content with all arrays of our industry. You're trying to make things easier and better for construction, which is key to what I want us all to try to do. And so, yeah, I hope that over time, when I have some different experiences coming out of in my new role, we'll be able to talk again. And hopefully in the world of content, you're developing something that we as mentors can go about saying, if you haven't had a chance, go check out Felipe's podcast, go read Joe and Keon's book. There's great people that are doing some great things in the lean world, and you just have a lot at your fingertips. So thanks for letting me come on your show and talk a little bit about the owner's side of things and just have a nice little chat with you about what I've been able to see and do and show some of my excitement that hopefully carries forward to other people to get excited about what you're talking about, Scrum and Lean.
Thank you so much, Stephen. It has been a pleasure. This heart's for you, buddy. I'm gonna move my Post-it note over to done as soon as we end this show. But it's just gonna go right. I'm gonna make another one in backlog. Get Stephen back on the show and definitely hang out with you in person every chance I get.
In real life, man. Well, it is funny though. I mean, like that is the point. Make it relatable, and you'll be surprised how many people get on board. And so that's the best part about Scrum, and that's the best part about some of the lean things. I remember doing a Mr. Potato Head, and it becomes relatable about how quickly you can put one together. But yeah, hey, this is a lot of fun. I'm glad you had me on.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you were on too, and you're coming back on again.
We'll do it. We'll build some time up, and hopefully I can come back and we can hit on a few of the other things that I did not get a chance probably to talk to with you.
Yeah. Some guests, Stephen, have way more than what can be contained in this time box called the show, and you're one of those guests. So
hey, I appreciate you.
Very special thanks to my guest. I'm Felipe Engineer Manriquez. The EBFC show is created by Felipe and produced by a passion to build easier and better. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, everybody. Let's go build.